very warm welcome to the brand new edition of Question Hour show from the Parliament House complex. And from this edition, we'll get you all the latest unstart questions asked by the members of the upper house during the ongoing 251st session of the Rajya Sabha and the response given by the government. I'm Kriti Mishra, and joining me is my colleague Rajat Kain.
Thanks, Kriti, and thanks our viewers for watching this edition of Question Hour. So, Kriti, let's begin with the show.
And the first question in this edition is from member Narayan Lal Pancharia, and this question is to the Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. And the member has asked the government whether it has assessed the contribution of micro, small and medium enterprises to the gross domestic product of the country during the last 3 years.
Well, replying to the question, the government said, as reported by National Statistics Office, Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, the share of MSME in all India GDP during 2015-16 and 16-17 and 2017-18 has been 29.5%, 29.3% and 29.7% respectively. The Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises implements various schemes of promotion and development of MSMEs across the country. These include Prime Minister Employment Generation Program, Micro and Small Enterprise Cluster Development Program, schemes for promotion of MSME in Northeastern region and Sikkim, Tool Room and Technology Centers, Mission Solar Chakra, scheme for funds for regeneration of traditional industries, procurement and marketing support scheme, entrepreneur skill development program, credit guarantee scheme for micro and small enterprises, and credit linked capital subsidy and technology upgradation scheme. Now, moving on, next question was asked by member T. Subbarama Reddy, and he asked Defence Ministry, will the ministry be pleased to state whether the government has created Department of Military Affairs within the ministry?
Well, this is quite an exhaustive answer given by the government, and the answer is in affirmative. Now, Department of Military Affairs with Chief of Defence Staff as a secretary was created to facilitate optimal utilization of resources and to promote coordination among the three armed forces. And as per the schedule of Government of India, allocation of business rules 1961, following subjects were allocated to DMA or Department of Military Affairs. Now, these include the armed forces of the Union, namely Army, Navy and Air Force. Integrated headquarters of the Ministry of Defence comprising of Army headquarters, Naval headquarters and Air headquarters, and also Defence Staff headquarters. The Territorial Army, works related to Army, Navy and Air Force. Procurement exclusive to the services except capital acquisitions as per the prevalent rules and procedures. Promoting coordination in procurement, training and staffing for the services through joint planning and integration of their requirements. Facilitation of restructuring of military commands for optimum utilization of resources by bringing about jointness in operation, coordination in operation, including through establishment of joint or theatre commands. Promoting use of indigenous equipment by the services. Now, the second schedule of Government of India, allocation of business rules 1961, clearly identifies the functions of all 5 departments of Ministry of Defence, and thus there will be no duplication of functions among them. Work of 23 sections along with 160 civilian officers and staff have been transferred from Department of Defence to the DMA or the Department of Military Affairs. Let's move on to the next question that has been asked by member T.G. Venkatesh, and this one is to the Ministry of Jal Shakti. And the member has asked the government whether the attention of the government has been drawn towards its flagship program called the Jal Jeevan Mission, announced in the 2019 budget to provide piped drinking water to every household in the country, and if so, the details thereof.
Well, the government replied in affirmative, saying the Government of India has launched Jal Jeevan Mission, that is JJM, in August 2019, which aims at providing potable drinking water at service level of 55 litres per capita per day to every rural household through functional household tap convention by the year 2024 with an outlay of 3.60 lakh crore. In the current financial year, the amount of 372.64 crore have been allocated to Andhra Pradesh, out of which 151.73 crore have been released towards the first installment. Now, as reported on 28 January 2020, rupees 74.26 crore have been utilized by the state. After the launch of JJM, that is Jal Jeevan Mission, a conference of ministry in charge of rural water supply of various states was held in New Delhi, followed by 5 regional workshops to discuss the modalities of implementation of the mission. Moreover, in consultation with state governments and other stakeholders in water sector, operational guidelines for the implementation of the mission has been released on 25th December 2019. Well, moving on, next question was asked by the member D. Kupendra Reddy from Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, and he sought to know whether it's a fact that India is committed to reduce its carbon emission with a target phase, and the details of the program.
In the response, the government says that under the Paris Agreement, India submitted its nationally determined contribution to United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, outlining 8 targets for the period 2021 to 2030. And one of the targets under NDC is to reduce the emissions intensity of its GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030 from 2005 level. National Action Plan on Climate Change provides an overarching policy framework for all climate actions. And NAPCC comprises of 8 core missions in specific areas of solar energy, enhanced energy efficiency, sustainable habitat, water, sustaining Himalayan ecosystems, Green India, sustainable agriculture, strategic knowledge for climate change, and also 33 states and union territories have also prepared State Action Plan on Climate Change consistent with the objectives of NAPCC. Let's move on to the next question that has been asked by member S. Muthukurappan, and this one is to the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways. And the member has asked the government whether National Highways Authority of India or the NHAI has achieved the pace of 8.3 km a day in the first 3 months of the current fiscal from just 1.8 km a day in the corresponding period last year, which is about the pace of construction of roads.
Replying to the query, the ministry said that National Highways Authority of India or the NHAI has constructed highways at the pace of 1.3 kilometers a day in first 3 months of current fiscal year as against 8.21 kilometers a day in the corresponding period of last year. This ministry has constructed highways at the pace of 23.68 kilometers a day in the first 3 months of the current fiscal year as against 25.84 kilometers a day in the corresponding period of last year through various executing agencies including the NHAI. Moving on to the last question of this edition of the show, which was asked by member Harnath Singh Yadav from Ministry of Youth Affairs and Sports. And he asked whether any effort has been made by the government to include ancient and extremely popular game of India, that is Kabaddi, in Olympics. If so, what are the details?
In the response, the government says that inclusion of any sport discipline in the Olympic Games is decided by International Olympic Committee. Among other things, the IOC has prescribed that a sport discipline must be governed by an international federation which undertakes to follow the rules of the Olympic Charter, and it must also be practiced widely across the world and meet various criteria. It is for the International Kabaddi Federation to take up required steps for inclusion of Kabaddi in Olympic Games. However, for making Kabaddi popular, the government has taken following initiatives or measures. Now, these include the sports facilities of Sports Authority of India or SAI at Lakshmi Bai National Institute of Physical Education, Gwalior and Guwahati have been made available free of cost for sports including Kabaddi for organizing training programs and also sporting events. Inclusion of Kabaddi in Khelo India Youth Games and Khelo India University Games. 126 athletes, 74 boys and 52 girls of Kabaddi have been selected under Talent Search and Development Vertical of Khelo India scheme for long-term athlete development program. And also coaching of sportspersons of Kabaddi discipline in SAI facilities. And lastly, grant of requisite permission to the organizers of various Kabaddi leagues. So Rajat, these were the important questions and answers in this edition of Question Hour. But on the other side, we'll have Prashn Kal in Hindi with latest questions of the members of the upper house and the response given by the government in written format. Stay tuned to Rajya Sabha Television.